Josh, and I am presenting an informational speech on ancient Egypt. One of the most studied and well-known ancient cultures is that of the Egyptians. So much of their culture is still around today and still influencing modern art. Ancient Egyptian art was not limited to just paintings or drawings, but extended into the world of jewelry, architecture, and more. This speech will inform you on the development of Egyptian art from the very distant past to modern times. In Egyptian art, one of the most common themes is that of religious figures. Gods and goddesses are the most common thing the ancient Egyptians would make in art because they believed that when you made an image with a god's likeness in it, you were calling upon them for protection from evil. Jewelry was a way that they did this. Most major gods and goddesses had an animal that represented them, so by wearing a necklace or a pin with that animal's likeness on it, you were asking for that god's protection. Religion was a huge part of day-to-day life for almost all of the people of ancient Egypt. It was more or less a state religion. Because the rulers practiced it, so did the people. Every aspect of life was influenced by the myths surrounding the gods and goddesses they believed in. Animals, which had a huge significance for the Egyptian people, believed that each one represented a different god. The scarab beetle represents the goddess Khepri, who pushes the sun through the sky. The falcon represents Horus, the god of vengeance and war. And the vulture represents the goddess Nekhbet, the patron of Upper Egypt. Animals alone were not spirits or deities, but they were so closely connected to some gods and goddesses that they were revered in much the same way a god would be in the flesh. They were the visual representation of an unseen god. There are countless examples of hieroglyphic art in which animals are shown to represent gods. Jewelry is a huge part of this. To the ancient Egyptians, who could afford expensive pieces, jewelry was not just used for aesthetic value. It was used for magical protection from the gods. It was almost like God advertising. If you wear a necklace with my image on it, or my animal, I'll trade you for a good year's harvest, was the general idea. The ancient Egyptians believed that humans were created from the fallen tears of the god Atum. The origin of humanity, because it is such a major part of religion, is a major theme in artwork as well. However, it is rare to find these creation stories in jewelry. They are more common to be seen as wall carvings or as paintings. Instead of seeing actual images of Atum crying onto a hilltop, as happened in the story, one could find a piece that had an image of just him on it, or an image of an animal that was sacred to him on a necklace. Obviously, it would be easier to carve an image of a god or of a snake than it would be to carve out an entire storyline onto a small piece of stone. Ancient Egypt, as we think of it today, was developed by Pharaoh Menes in 3150 BCE, after he conquered Lower Egypt. His rule was the first in a series of dynasties that led Egypt for the following 3,000 years. The Pharaonic period was between 3200 BCE until 332 BCE, when the nation was conquered by the Macedonians. The Nile River Valley was the hub of all Egyptian life because of an abundance of fertile soil ideal for farming. Egyptians had all sorts of gods and goddesses dedicated to representing the importance they saw in farming and in livestock. There are images of these deities depicted on pottery, walls, tombs, and all manner of other things. It is rare to find a piece of jewelry with an entire farm scene on it, and more typical to find an image of a god that represented wheat, for example. Today, Egypt is one of the most studied and researched ancient cultures. There are countless museum exhibits showcasing the artwork that has been uncovered, hundreds of books written on various subjects pertaining to it, and still much more to discover. The pyramids are a huge tourist attraction and one of the 7 wonders of the world, and the fashion and jewelry from the era has influenced countless modern interpretations. For example, pop singer Rihanna has a tattoo of the goddess Isis and of a falcon, both in traditional Egyptian style. If you walk into almost any store, you can find Ankhs, the Egyptian symbol of life, on earrings or on t-shirts. The Eye of Horus is another Egyptian symbol that is popular to wear today on clothing and on jewelry. This just goes to show that the culture still lives on today, even though the religion died out long ago. There are exhibitions of ancient Egypt in some of the world's biggest cities, and they all draw huge crowds. All the Egyptian art that has been uncovered has been preserved so that generations in the future will be able to go view it and learn about its ancient culture. My research gave me some insight on the culture that I had always been interested in. A fascination with ancient Egypt plus my love of art made for a great subject to research. Most of the art I had seen previous to this assignment was about hieroglyphics or tombs, so I wanted to learn about something that I had little history with, jewelry. I hope that this leaves you with a new interest and appreciation of Egyptian culture and with a desire to learn more about it. Thank you for listening.